on YouTube. But it's still, if you want me to pause it because you're getting into something that you're worried about, I'm happy to do that. No worries. Now, last time there were a few more people here and I made the mistake of getting everybody to introduce each other, and it took an hour and a half to get around everybody. So we won't do that again. So if anybody's like, say, Amy, is it Amy or Ami? How we say your name?
Amy.
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 If somebody speaks, just say, who are you? And they can do a quick introduction. But we would like to know about you. We would like to know, do you consider that you've seen through the illusion of self, or are you still on that path?
I'll say yes. I started my, I can't say search, is beginning at the COVID year, the summer, when it's during the lockdown. I don't know why I have this, just like question why I'm here. What made me to be here? Like, I feel like my life is okay. It's nothing good or bad. It's just normal. But I feel like, what's the point for me to be here to go through this whole thing? My background was Christian, so the time I believe in God, all that stuff. But I still feel like I don't want to be died and then go to heaven. And what's the point to be here before that? What's this life? Just be here, just know God and know I'm died and I'm go heaven. Just something doesn't click. So I feel like I need to know who I really is. So I start searching and just go on, like YouTube, and I tumble in, Eckhart Tolle, which I never heard of him before that. And the first time I just listened to his audiobook, The Power of Now, I feel like, because he was talking about God, like he didn't really resonate with God. I'm like, I don't know if I want to listen to this guy. A couple of days later, I went back to him somehow, just went through YouTube and somehow went back to him and just went through his book. I was like, he's talking about me. He's talking about me. Everything he said is me. I'm like, how I was like that, exactly what he said. I was like so surprised. Then I'm like, then what? Who am I then after all that stuff? And he's like, you're not your thought, because you know when you're thinking, you're not the person, you're not the thought, you're the one notice the thought. I'm like, that's right. Because before that, I was completely mind identified. There's no gap, no nothing. It's just my mind, I'm thinking that's me completely. But after that, I was like, wow, there's a difference. I know that. But who is the one know that? I have no idea. I'm like, maybe Holy Spirit or something. I was just have no idea. But somehow things just start to shift. I just feel like one morning I just all my life went through, like from I was young to this point. I feel like everything happened to my life, good or bad. There's purpose, but I have no idea why. I just something shift. I didn't excuse me. I didn't know what happened. Then I just feel like even though I didn't know what happened, I feel like there's a big giant like backpack fall off my shoulder. I was like, something's different. But I have no idea. When I talk about, consciousness, awareness, all that stuff, I'm like, consciousness to me, just I'm conscious, like medical term, or I'm unconscious. Awareness, I was like, okay, it's just a name, no more. It just seems I have no idea what it is. And because I was Christian background, because at church they teach you don't ever meditate or try to, do anything else outside the God and church is evil or bad or cold or nothing good. So I was like, I can't meditate. I never meditated before because there's evil spirits may come into me or something. But I feel like it doesn't make sense because if God's spirit is so powerful, how the evil spirit even be able to touch it? It doesn't make sense. But regardless, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to meditate. I'm just go along with follow what Eckhart Tolle is saying. But somehow I just went through the he's talking about inner body and just kind of I just start to meditate or inquiry or something to a space like completely quiet. It's just like endless. I can't say it's dark because when doing like during the night it's dark, but to me it's just endless. Like what he said, vast space. It was like wow, there's interspace. I never know there's a world there. I have no idea what it is. I was just like, it's just quiet and peaceful. That's all I got. So from there, I just feel like somehow I start to attach myself to consciousness. I'm like, I'm consciousness. I'm better now. I'm not human. I'm better than myself. But I was just still confused. But searching actually started from there because I have no idea what it is he's talking about. I feel like I need to know. But yeah, just the funny thing is like I just don't feel like this person, this mind, something's beyond this. And there's a lot of habit I used to do like shopping or a lot of things just naturally fall away. Before that, I was like, if I can just stop, try to buy something what I don't need. If I could just don't do that, I just feel like so addicted to that. But somehow all that stuff just start naturally just gone, just gone. I was like, wow. So after that, I went just keep searching for what get myself into until pretty recent. I feel like I start to realize like just what I think I am like consciousness whatsoever is not really there. Like me, I just now realize I just feel like no, I'm not here. What this thinking mind saying is completely just ghost. And what I believe who I am is not who I am because it's not here. It's empty out here. There's nothing even be able to recognize anything because that's how I start the feather work. I was follow Angela DeLulo, his interview with Kevin Shanalak. He was talking feather stuff. I was like, I never heard of that before, but all the interview was really just, I'm like, I need to do that because there's so many blind spots. There are so many beliefs. I was still hanging there, even though I see through there's no self completely. Because why inquiry, when I was in deep, quiet space, the sound is just sound. The sensation. There's no body. There's the sensation say nothing about body. There's no body. There's no space. Even though I can see space, but everything is the same place. Even my thought is the same place. I was like, there's no self. I couldn't find the self anywhere. But I still identify like a lot of times I think, oh, I'm here. I just like something doesn't kind of work together. Why I see the self is not here. I still work, acting like self all the time. It's just I think there's a lot of things need to be done. Before, just like maybe I'm just feel like I believe I'm not here, but I still actually hold on that belief. I just couldn't see clearly, or something just make me feel like I need to go through this further work. I need to see every little part which stone hasn't been turned. I need to see that. That's pretty much my story.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Beth, we haven't heard from you before, have we?
Oh, I think you can hear me, can't you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, yeah. No, it's my first time. I've got the time right at last.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. Oh God.
I guess we just want to know where you are on this journey. Yeah.
Yeah, I came across Purnell. Is it Purnell?
Yep.
Is that her work on the Angelo channel? Her interview with him, and I was drawn to what she was talking about because of her neurodiverse
Thing.
what to call it really?
Yeah, I got it.
The autism identity.
We don't have to be delicate, you know.
Oh, okay, I don't want to. Well, I'm sort of been quite confused for a while about having a diagnosis of ADHD and how that fits into the teachings, the non-dual teachings.
We'll sort that for you.
Yeah, so that's what attracted me
All right, that's
to
good.
join this group. And
I've got an
I've
echo
been-
somehow.
Oh, you've got an echo. Oh.
I don't think I.
Yes.
It's still there. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Mm.
Oh, shall I not talk?
No, it may not be you. I don't know. Somebody's microphone is too close to the speaker.
Oh, right. Yeah. I just assumed it was me. Yeah. Not sure. Shall I carry on?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I sort of started on the non-dual path after reading Eckhart Tolle in 2008. I received this diagnosis about 7 years ago, and it sort of made a lot of sense. I guess I'm just stuck between knowing how it fits in with the non-dual things.
Yeah, we can sort that for you.
I don't know how to explain what I want to say really.
Yeah.
But I was quite interested in the Theta work because it was a bit structured.
Would you consider that you've seen through the illusion of self?
At times I have, yeah. It's not by no means permanent. Yeah, there has been times.
If you fancy some chocolate and you normally keep it in the fridge, and you go to the fridge, you open it, and you look, and it's clearly not there, and you shut the fridge and go away, do you go back and look again in the fridge? Or do you just accept that there's none there?
Oh, well, if it's not there, I can't eat it.
That's
So
right.
I'd accept
But
it.
I'm saying, do you need to check that it's not there again and again and again?
Well, if I've forgotten, yes, I guess so. But I'd like to think that I wouldn't forget that.
No. So using that as an analogy for self, having had some experiences of no self, how do you go back to having a self? When you say
Well,
it
I guess
comes
it's
and goes.
It's programming, isn't it? It's very strong programming of being. I mean, maybe there's part of me that sort of. I think there's a part of me that is quite suspicious about it.
Okay.
and think, well, it's just all made up, this stuff. So I might feel differently one day to another day.
Okay, so if we use the Feder model here, would it be accurate to say that you clearly recognize that there's no self, but that you have doubt from time to time about it?
I recognise it intellectually, I recognise it, but I wouldn't say I clearly recognise it experientially all the time. Although I have had experience of it.
Yes. So that's what I'm asking you. Look, could everybody maybe turn off their microphone for a moment? And as I'm talking, just turn it back on and see if the echo comes back.
Oh,
Okay, so I'm the only one that's not muted now, and I don't hear any echo anymore. Okay, so Amy, turn yours back on as I'm talking. Unmute yourself, Amy. So while I'm talking, and see if the echo comes back. No, and it doesn't. Jitka, turn yours on as I'm talking and see if the echo comes back. No, it doesn't. Paul, turn yours on. And while I'm talking and see if the echo comes back. No, Cheryl, while I'm talking, just unmute and see if the echo returns. No, it doesn't. Judy's not there. Jeff, turn yours on while I'm talking and no echo still. Winnie, turn yours on. Winnie's not there. Phil, turn yours on while I'm talking and there's no echo still. Todd.
Mine's been off, but it was Beth. If she muted her mic while you're talking, the echo would go away.
Okay. Well, why did you let me go through all of this? Okay.
Sorry.
So Beth, if you turn yours on and the echo will come back, eh? So while I'm talking, yes, the echo is you. So just move your microphone further away from your speakers or turn your speakers out or away or something.
Oh, I'm on my iPad, so.
Oh, okay. So
all in one. I could log back in on my laptop because I don't think that has a problem. Usually
I think just Beth, if you can just when Vince talks, if you just mute your microphone for a second, or if anybody talks, if you just mute the microphone, that'll do it. Or if you turn your actual volume down on the iPad, if you can still hear it, that might also lower it enough.
I could log back on with my laptop.
Let's see, does this work?
Huh?
Still a little bit there. It's better, but it's still a little bit there. Yeah.
Yeah, go and log back on your laptop, Beth. That's fine.
Okay.
Yep. Tell us, Daryl. Do you consider that you've recognized the self as an illusion?
I'm something like Beth. I've had that experience many times. Sometimes it lasts for quite a long time, but then it seems like my experience most of the time is one of having seen through that, but still there's this subtle or not so subtle sense of ownership of experience.
Yeah, sure. And when you say quite some time, you're talking hours, days, weeks, years? How long?
Hours.
Hours at a time, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And in fact, it's funny because I have a mentor, and I asked him about it because I found the whole thing rather frustrating because I would keep having these classic experiences of what the Buddhists call anatta while doing sitting meditation. And even having had those many times, it still comes back to that sense of some sort of agency. And he said, well, you know, the mind is like a committee, and apparently not everyone on the committee has gotten the message.
That's a good analogy. I like that. Yeah. Right. One of the things that happens in this kind of format, this meetup format that we've got here, is that you get to talk to people that have been, how can I put it, established in living with the illusion of self for a long time. So you get to get a bit of an idea about what your expectations are, or how close they are to what might actually happen. Of course, having said that, everybody does it in their own way, don't they? It's all,
that's what I keep hearing.
yeah. Yeah. And we did hear from you before, Jitka, but tell us again quickly.
Yeah, I think that it's actually quite fresh. So I think that was last week, just before the meeting. I think that it eventually became permanent. The seeing that there is really no self, no sense of agency, no thinker, no seer. Yeah, and the way it came about, it was like glimpses for quite a long time, and then it was not staying. And then at some point, it just did stay. Yeah. So since then, the focus has been more on the like oneness, or get the feeling of oneness. Or now I'm getting lost actually. So hopefully this will be coherent somehow. Yeah, when there's no self, no agent, no doer, what's there otherwise? So I sense this, or this is silence, or this space of life, or life, what do you call it? Just being.
Yeah.
But I can't. There's no feeling, understanding, or whatever, as to whether this being is the same as your being or everybody else's being. If it's the same as the consciousness concept. Or I know the theory, but in practice, this is not seen. This is just, yeah. So I'm very curious if I can hear something about that from some of the more experienced members of the group.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see if we can accommodate. Yeah. Okay. Well, for you new guys, you'll pick up as people talk what their, how can I say, their level of experience is. But just ask questions. No formalities here. No, you don't have to put your hand up to talk. Just jump in, and frequently people will talk over other people, but somebody will say, you go first, and it's okay. So don't worry too much about it. Okay. Gee, that's a much clearer picture of you, Beth, on your computer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Where's the echo gone?
Yep. Good one. Okay. Well, what I heard in a couple of those introductions was that the need for and of course this is my story, I'm imagining this, but I imagine that I heard the need for confirmation, or some kind of measurement about where you are, or maybe the implication that there's more to go, lots more to go, or maybe just more. I said lots, but yeah, that's mine. Okay. Answers. People, the mind wants answers all the time, and it's actually never satisfied with any answer it gets. So as soon as you give you an answer that might be a bit satisfactory, it'll just come up with another question, won't it? So the mind is like a, whatever analogy you like, but it never shuts up. It just goes and goes and goes all the time. So presumably you're all here because of some desire you've got, some idea that you can be different to the way you are now, and that different will be better. If it's not the case, jump up and tell me. Hi, Leila.
Well, I'm here out of curiosity and a love of a mystery.
Okay.
Not because I think anything's missing.
Great. Excellent.
I second to that. Yes, I think that since this no self thing or shift happened, there's profound sense of joy. It's just good. But the curiosity is really eating on me. How is it with this oneness? I need to know. I don't know, feel, whatever. No correct words.
For a long time, I used a description that said that before waking up, I was an obsessive seeker, but after waking up, I became an obsessive discoverer. It was different, there's that seeking is a real drive to, it's pushing forward in a huge way, whereas discovery is just laying back and saying, come on, baby, show me what it's all about. That's discovery. And so there's a big difference in attitude and so on as well. So I hear two discoverers here amongst us, which is great. Yeah. And when you guys speak, some others may very well immediately compare themselves to you, and so they're going to go, well, gee, that doesn't happen for me. I want that, which is pretty normal. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sick of hearing my own voice, so I want you guys to jump in. And so, who among you had an intense desire to say something to Beth or Amy or whoever when they were talking? Did any of you have ideas about what might be helpful for them?
No, but I wanted to thank, I want to change the subject. So then maybe somebody else will come back to your subject. I wanted to thank Kathy for something she said last week. Because I had a run-in with the second fetter of rites and rituals I didn't know was there. And it was interesting. I was traveling last week, and at our Airbnb, the host instructed us to empty the refrigerator, which meant throwing all the food away. I had such a hard time throwing away, the jar of mayonnaise, a half a bag of potatoes. I was awake in the middle of the night. It was like, oh, here's a belief. Anyway, by morning it had settled out and I could just throw it away. But anyway, I want to thank Kathy for her example last week. And yeah, that was very interesting to just recognize it when I ran into it.
Yeah. That's a good one. The rites and rituals, we just look at it in a gross fashion and think it's, well, do we still go to church? But when you start to think about your habitual behavior and how uncomfortable you get if you change that, that's really interesting stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious about like who still has beliefs. Like when I think about my beliefs, yeah, like that's what, I just want to let my beliefs go. But it seems like I can't, like all your beliefs, like the belief that, I don't know, do you not have any beliefs? Do you guys not have any beliefs, you and Todd? Like what do you mean by that? Okay, so I'll say, like, for me, like, I'm struggling right now because yes, I haven't passed any gates yet, but like I think about my belief, well, my drama right now with my son, and like, he wants to sit on the computer all day long, and my belief is that that's not good for you. That's my belief. And so like I'm gonna like I'm in control. I make the choice to say, no, you're not gonna do that, and we're gonna go do something else. And it's just so much fucking drama that I just want to let that belief go so I could just let him do whatever he wants and I don't have to fight. So that's the belief that I'm like, it's like, is that a belief? It is, right?
Todd and I have
Like you sit there
different
all day
ideas
long,
about
that's
this.
not good for you.
So I'm going to let Todd talk to you about this first.
Okay. So I would say, all right, it's not the fact that you want your son to not be doing this thing that's the problematic belief. It's that you have identification with the you that has this so-called belief. It's not about just letting the world run amok and just, having no guiding morals or principles or anything.
Like boundaries, healthy boundaries are good. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. We absolutely need the healthy boundaries before we can do this work. Otherwise, you're going to run into some real problems in your life. The reason that you feel like it's not healthy for him to be spending all day on a computer screen is because you've had a number of experiences. You've read a bunch of things. You've heard a bunch of things. So you have this understanding that that's not healthy for him. That it doesn't mean that you have to undo everything that you've learned and just let all of that go and just let him do whatever he wants to do. It's that you right now are identifying with the person who has this belief that's causing you drama, that if you hold him to this task, he reacts to it and you just don't want to deal with that. So you're having reactivity to the drama that's caused by actually having a child and telling him what to do, and the fact that you are identifying as the belief holder, right? So we can actually look into, see how I put this. So the fact that you have this knowledge that you've picked up about this behavior, you're going to react to that. Like you're going to live through that experience either way. That's going to come through you because that is all the causes and conditions that have led up to this moment have been there, right? So that's going to come out of you. The question is there identification with that expression that's coming out of you? So when you say no, turn off the screen and go read a book, are you identified as the parent who is saying turn off the screen and read a book? It's not that you can just say, oh yeah, just do whatever you want to do, go run out in traffic, it's fine. Like there's still, it's just a matter of where's that identification on your end coming from. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that I could still say that to him from an empty place, but it is me that's saying it, that has to say it.
Is it? Well, no. It's coming out of
Oh.
your body, but the question is, who is the me that is actually saying it? That's what we're here investigating, right? We could say that there is an entity there who is giving this direction to presumably this child. But the question that we're looking for is one step below that of, are you the one who's actually making the choice to say this? Yes, it's happening, but we're looking for the identification with the thinker, right? The identification with the person who is actually saying these things. We're not denying the fact that it's going to happen or that it did happen. It's just the identification of the doer of that. That is what we're looking at here. On the outside level, your entire life can go on looking exactly the same way as it does. It's just your actual identification with it and reactivity to it that can change. So
110% identification, yes.
yeah. So when you feel like you are telling him to do something, where do you feel that in the body? How do you feel that that is coming from you? Where is that felt?
I mean, it's like totally right now. It's so present because it's happening now that like I feel like sick because I want to cry because I just want to just like not fight over it. But it's just yeah, like yeah, I still like it's still me like inside under the skin. Like my body is me. I still I still think that, yeah, I still feel like
Yeah,
that.
you're
Like
thinking that. You're thinking it. Stop thinking it. Tell us where you feel this feeling that you got. Where are those tears coming from? Where's the spot in your body that you're feeling it?
it's just it's like my heart beating. Like I feel my pulse and my face is hot. So like I mean I get that that's even the thought, my face is a thought, right? So that's what you guys are trying to tell me.
It's not so much that your face is a thought. We don't have to quite go to the level of dissolving the body for this. Right now, you're feeling this sort of reaction to the interaction with your son, right? Now, there's aversion happening right now to the drama. So we can come at it from that level of where you're attempting to bypass the situation by just saying, you can just do whatever you want, essentially. You know, if I let go of all beliefs, that's just spiritually bypassing and trying to make your life easier so that you don't have to feel these feelings, right? So we can come at it from the level of actually feeling these feelings and then recognizing that you can actually sit with this discomfort of disciplining a child. But from the first fetter standpoint, just looking at the actual illusion of self, for that, we have to go to the level of right now, when you are, well, not right now, but put yourself back a few minutes ago when you were telling him to, you know, get off the screen. I'm assuming that it felt like you were saying those words. You were having to direct that, right? So do you remember where in your body it felt like that sense of self was, that sense of agency of being this parent that has to say these words?
I don't really remember, but maybe in my chest
Okay.
or in my head.
So recreate it right now. Pretend that he's sitting there and you're going to have to tell him that right now. Where
Yeah,
do you
it's
feel?
in my chest.
Okay. So can you investigate that sensation and see, is there anything in the direct experience of that chest sensation, how can you describe that? First off, before we even do that, can you describe the sensation in more detail?
It's just it's like a tightness. Yeah. It's like a constriction. It's constricted.
Anything more?
No, yeah, it's just like a blob of warmth.
Good.
Like,
Okay.
you know, of heat, not warmth, but heat.
Okay. So we have constriction, we have tension, we have a blob of heat. How are we understanding those things to be you? Does that indicate that there is an agent in that situation?
I know that it's just from what I've learned that, yeah, that
Not
is
from what you learned, like right now, like using your direct experience, feeling that sensation. Where is the you that is in those sensations? Bring it back into the body.
it's there. The me is there in those sensations.
How do you know it's a me? How do you know to label it me?
Well, it's just automatic. I don't think about it in the moment. It just, this is me needing to control the situation right now.
Okay, so let's take the label of this is me off of it. And what is there without the label?
Without the label of this is me, this situation has to be controlled.
That's still a thought. I'm still coming back to the body.
Oh,
You have tension in the chest. You have a feeling of heat in the chest. You are assuming that that indicates that there's a me here who is controlling a situation. Now that in itself is a label, which is a thought, but then you're adding another sort of layer of thought on top of that, that there is a me who has to control the situation, and that this feeling in my chest is indicative of the fact that I am controlling the situation. In your actual experience, how does a feeling in your chest control a situation? And how does it define to you that that feeling is a you? Do you understand what I mean by that?
no, yeah, I just wanted to, how does it define to me that feeling is a me? It just knows. It just knows.
There's
It's
a thought.
automatic.
What knows? So what knows?
What knows? What knows that's a me in there as that sensation? I don't know. No, I don't know. It's just automatic.
That's what we're investigating. We can't just label it as automatic. This is what we do. This is direct inquiry. So you're going to investigate right now, preferably, what is it that thinks it knows? And if that burns out the mind for a moment and stops, then that's great. But we need to investigate, what is it that actually thinks that it's an automatic knowing of?
Because that's the way it's always been it's forever.
Okay.
That's the way it's always been.
It doesn't have to be that way. Now we can investigate it and see.
I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
Jay, that thing in your chest that you just know is me. that's not where the knowing that it's me is coming from, is it? It's coming from somewhere different.
Yeah, it's coming from somewhere different
Okay, so
because
which one is you?
I'm
Which one is
noticing that,
you?
right? Okay, so then, oh, so then if I'm noticing it from my head, then my head is noticing my chest.
So how can your chest claim to be me and your head claim to be me?
Oh, well,
What about your little finger? Does it claim to be me too?
well, it's all me. It's all me. Everything that's behind my skin is me.
So one part of you can know that the other part of you is you.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I guess it can.
Sorry, back to you, Todd.
Thanks, Vince. Okay. So there are a lot of
Yeah, my
investigations
head
to be
can
done
notice
here.
my heart. My head can notice my heart because they're both
Okay.
me. My.
Now notice also that this concept of it's my head that's noticing my heart. How do you even know that it's your head noticing the heart? That's an assumption that we can't take
Yes.
on face value.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're
then how do I
questioning
get rid of that
everything.
assumption?
Investigate. That's why when we do you understand the process of like direct investigation or direct looking, direct inquiry?
I mean, yeah, I mean, when I say, where am I? Because I feel like it's better than who am I? Because like we've said before,
Mhm.
like who am I just says that, okay, that I am somebody. So when I say where am I always come back to I'm behind my skin. I'm the sensations and everything behind my skin. This is the boundary of me, my skin. Uh, Um, so so yeah, I mean, what other types of so any other direct investigation is like just noticing what's happening right now, like that like all of the senses, right? That's direct investigation.
Yeah. So yeah, there are a lot of things we can go. Before we do it though, I think could you take a few deep breaths? Really let the exhalations be longer than the inhalations. And if you can, even follow the breath as it goes into the body and see how far down into the body you can follow it before it turns around and comes back out very slowly.
Okay.
All right. Now get a feel for the sensations of your body. How would you describe them?
It's like I said before, it's like a throbbing kind of, and it's like a blob of presence.
All right. Now, you've said that it's defined by the boundary of your skin. With your eyes closed, feeling into the sensations, can you tell where the boundary of your skin is?
Yeah, I can. It's like vibrating.
Okay, so feel that vibration. Really soak into it. Now, can you feel a hard wall of boundary around that vibration?
No.
Okay, good. So can you really feel the boundary of your skin?
I mean, like, yeah, like almost, it's not like a hard wall, but there's like a, there's like a, I don't know. Is it just a thought that, maybe it's just a thought, I don't know. But I almost can sense the boundary, not like a hard wall, but
Okay, okay,
maybe
good,
I'm just
good.
imagining the skin.
Yeah, notice while you're feeling this sensation and kind of get a feel for it throughout the entire body, right? So you're feeling this kind of cloud of throbbing, tingling sensation.
Yeah.
Good. Notice, first of all, where are you noticing this from? Does it feel like,
It feels like my mind is in my head, and
okay.
that's where I'm noticing it from. Am I such a pain in the ass? I feel like I'm being a pain
No,
in the
no,
ass.
don't criticize. Absolutely no. There's no judgment here. Absolutely no judgment. So just feel the sensations. Notice that it feels like you're looking from somewhere somewhere in your head, maybe somewhere behind your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then notice, do you have a very subtle, likely mental image of your body that is floating somewhere in your internal visual space?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is this mental overlay that is being projected onto this nebulous cloud of sensation. So you're feeling these sensations that don't have a hard wall of a boundary around it, that you maybe can't tell exactly where your skin begins or ends, but you have this visual image in your mind that's saying, this is what my body looks like. It's always looked like this. And so these sensations must conform to this shape. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just an image. So putting that image aside, feel the sensation of either your feet on the floor or your seat on the chair, and see if you can actually find the boundary between where the body ends and the floor or the seat begins.
No.
Oh, good. Stay with that. Tell me the exact sensations that you feel there.
Pressure.
Good. Can you break that down even more?
Just heavier air.
Just good, good. So you have sensation, right? So anything
Mm-hmm.
that tells you that this is you is sensation. So
Yeah.
the idea that the sensations that are happening in the body are you, that idea is a thought that is laid over just these simple sensations that are appearing. And the more you tune into this, the more you get to notice that the hard and fast boundaries of your body don't actually exist in your direct experience, the more it loosens up that sense of, I am my body. And when you get these sensations in your chest, because it feels like you are in control of a situation, notice if that tense sensation in the chest is actually doing anything in the situation. Is it controlling anything, or is it just a manifestation of a biological change? Isn't it just sensation happening? And then turn into your experience, either physically or mentally, and notice if there is anything there that seems to be a controller of this situation. There might be words coming out of a mouth There might be a body gesturing in the air, but we're not looking for these outward manifestations. We're looking for the doer of the action, not the actions themselves. An action happening does not necessarily imply a doer of them. An experience does not necessarily imply an experiencer. This is our investigation.
Okay.
Does that
That's
help?
like what Pernell says where I'm at in her videos too, where she says like, just notice it and like, don't do anything. Just notice it. Like she doesn't say to ask about it, but she just says, just notice it, but don't do anything
Yeah,
and just
that's
let
really
it be
good with,
there.
yeah, especially with emotional trauma work and that sort of thing, just sitting and allowing the sensation to be. If we're looking for the self though, then it helps to actually sit with it, but then investigate, turn it around and actually try to find what feels like it's being assumed to be a self in this moment.
Okay.
And it's a really it's a process of active investigation. The irony being that you're still not doing it, but you have to see that for yourself.
Okay. So what seems to be like it's being like it's a self right now? That's kind of the
Yeah.
essence of the question when it happens. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Where do you feel like a self? How do you feel like a self right now? And if you find that you're going to an explanation and saying, well, that's just the way it is, I've always been like that, or it's just an assumption, that's not the answer. You know, you might not have an answer, and that's fine. It's an experience.
Okay.
So just notice what feels like a self at this moment, and it could change from moment to moment. Sometimes it might be an identification with the body. Sometimes it might be an identification with thoughts. Sometimes it might be an identification with, you know, this kind of viewer angle that seems like we're, you know, perceiving something from behind the eyes. Just notice that and then investigate in your direct experience what it actually is that's being experienced, and if it really is proof of being a self or not.
Okay. Oh, I'll try that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And back to the original question about belief, I think it's helpful in doing what Todd's guiding you through to work out, is the me something you know, or is the me something you believe? And what do you know? Do you know sensations? And beyond sensations, do you know or believe that there's a you?
What comes to mind is like, well, so there's a distinction between a knowing and a belief. That's what I started thinking. What's the difference between knowing something and believing something?
It's a good question to investigate.
I've got a soapbox for that one. Yes, in my seeking days, I was obsessed with this question for a long time. And a long story short, I came to the conclusion, you get that? I came to the conclusion that therefore you can say my belief is that there is only belief. There's nothing but belief. Everything is belief, right? There's not a single thing that's not a belief. How do you know that you know something? You don't. You just believe you know it. It's all belief. So cut the bullshit, accept the fact that every single thing that you respond to is a belief, okay? But some beliefs are pretty stupid, so don't believe them. So it's as simple as that. Check out everything in your experience. That's all there is. For you, that is what I call capital THIS. That's what I call this. That's all there is. There is nothing but what your current experience. Everything else is just a belief. That's another angle you could come at this from. And I'd really like to hear Jeff's idea about this, because he'll put it really succinctly.
I believe you put me on the spot, Vince. No.
I love that. Well, you don't have to rehearse anything, just open your mouth.
I don't know if well, everything is a belief. A belief to me is like a proposition, a statement in words. Is this true or false? And I've seen that all beliefs are nonsense. They don't make any sense. And with that, every hope of understanding anything collapses. When you come to the word knowing, I don't know what to say about it. There's this thing we call direct experience. I guess, maybe I'm not speaking to your point directly, but what's alive for me right now is that we do inquiry to eventually get to a base level of awareness or consciousness. And that place is kind of dead. It's static. It's neutral. It's uninteresting. And life is not really to be found there. We just need to be able to find that place. And we need the freedom to go from that place to the world of story and to enjoy the stories, but without believing the story, without identifying with the story. Just everything is light. Everything is free. And there's no problems and there's nothing to worry about. I don't know if I made any sense or clarified anything.
I found that really clear. Thank you.
I'm sorry if it's like, if I'm being redundant, but please just tell me. But so, like when I hear him say that, I want to give up the belief that that's bad for him. Like I don't have problems disciplining him when it's like like if he's being disrespectful, or if I have no problems with just being neutral about saying, listen, buddy, we're not doing that. But so that's, but this thing on this side, I feel like is more of a belief. Like, when I tell him, what did he just say? He said something about it's not a problem. It's not going to be a problem. It's fine. It's going to be fine. Like if I just let him play, it's going to be fine. Does that make sense?
I didn't mean to say that. What I meant to say is it seems so clear to me, Jahida, that you're putting a self in the middle of all of this. Whatever is whatever is. There's nobody doing anything. You're ascribing selves. You're putting selves in this situation. Everything just is as it is, and it's fine. That doesn't mean that your son can play as much as he wants to. That would also be a mistake, ascribing meanings to things that don't have any. sorry. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
failing you. I don't know what to say, but things can happen in a good way without anybody taking credit for it or making it happen. So it's light.
Yeah.
You can tell him, you can no more playing, do something else or do this, but it's just speaking happening, and it's just there's no one to feel bad about it. There's no. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. That was good. Yeah. So if you think, look, I should be this way. This is how I should be feeling, but I'm not feeling that. So something's wrong. Can you see how kind of one thing leads to another thing? And then when you say there's something is wrong, that you're going to feel bad about that. So we've got this chain of events that's going on constantly. But by the time we respond to what is currently the situation, there's a kind of a fraction of a second, a millisecond of delay while we kind of read what the situation is, and then we respond to it. And I forgot where I was going with this.
I'd love to poke into this for just a sec.
Please, Lisa, come in.
And the reason is because I used to believe the same thing you believe right now. And my kids love to play video games. And that was back before the video games really were nearly as like engaging and everything as they are now. They were just plain old games then. But there, and then even more problematic in my mind was a friend's child that played games, and he was like all the time with them, and they let him play all the time. And even when everybody, the families were getting together, the child would be downstairs playing video games instead of engaging with the rest of the family group. And I can remember thinking, oh, they're going to regret that. It's not right, he needs to be socialized, da 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 da, all these fucking ideas that I had. Well, you know what? He's an aeronautical engineer now building fucking rockets, okay? We don't know anything. That was his mind. He was developing all that. His mind needed that kind of stimulation because that's the kind of brain he had that was growing to be a rocket building mind. So we just don't know. We do need to question our assumptions around how we think something is. And then one other thing I'd love to point out, because it was an incredibly poignant moment in the journey of this body mind, and that was like for you when you walked from the where you were and your son was close by and you muted yourself and you walked away, and your anxiety and tension and feeling of, oh, here it is right now, it was right there, it was very active. And Todd asked you, where is it, and you just talked about the body. It was in your chest, you really identified it. The most active thing right then was that sensation. What does that sensation know about disciplining a child? It doesn't have anything to do with disciplining a child. That sensation was the most active thing right then. It was your body. So that's where the work lies, is getting to know your body and starting to understand it. And pulling apart the entanglement between this is me disciplining and I've got a body over here that's freaking out. They're two different things. This is me is like the illusion, but you'll figure that out. You've got the interest and attention to do that.
Thank you.
I can just sort of reiterate a similar story with my son, and was constantly on the computer, and it was so difficult, and we kind of just let go and said, okay, don't do it. And he's an AI data scientist now, and I'm not saying that's good or bad now either. I don't know. So, but it was pulling the hair out for years and years and years, and trying to figure out, and it's like it's sort of like a new generation now. It's completely different from what we had, and their minds, we don't know. So yeah, just to reassure you, as with that mother bone that's throbbing in your body, or but yeah, I just wanted to say that to you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys, like, the reassuring, but I see what Todd, when he says, like, you are reassuring me, like the me that I need to look at. I think that's what Todd was saying, right, Todd? Like, this feels wonderful, you guys reassuring me, but it's me that you're reassuring.
Yeah.
Right, Todd?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with
Okay.
that. And it's true. I mean, we can look at it from all different sides, and it's okay, it's so hard because we're mixing levels, we're mixing the sort of practical level and the ultimate level, and we're flipping back and forth. And on a practical level, you could say that broccoli is healthier than ice cream, right? We could say that there are effects that are visible in the body and this sort of thing. On an ultimate level, we could break that down and go, much further to where none of it really makes a difference, right? None of it really matters. We could go from, we truly don't know, maybe your son will grow up to be this, brilliant AI specialist by doing it. Or maybe he'll just be in your basement for the rest of his life playing video games. We have no idea, right? It's all just speculation at this point. What really is important for what we're doing here is coming back to how you relate to that and how you create a sense of self out of this situation, and ultimately also how you react to it. So we can come back to your reactivity, because not everybody in this situation would react the same way, right? There could be people who have no problem just telling their kid to get off of the tablet or get off the video games, right? So we can look into why you react the way that you do to it. And that can be another kind of investigation, because also, as Pernilla says, we only see reflections of ourselves, right? We are in this mirror bubble, as she puts it. And so you're only seeing these kind of reflections of your own issues and all of these situations. And so it doesn't really matter what the external situation is, as much as it's how it's relating to you and how you are creating a sense of self out of this situation. So that's why we can get really.
So is that the difference between, like, when they say there's the movie that's happening? There's the movie that's like, this is the character as me, and there's everything that's happening. But are you saying the other realm is like kind of underneath that, kind of, or?
Yeah, essentially. I mean,
Okay.
to a certain extent, yeah. So you have something that can often feel like a self, that can feel like this whole play of, it really makes a difference if we save the environment, and it really makes a difference if, we have clean water, and, really makes a difference if we cut down on gun violence and all of these things. And on one level, that's all totally true and totally doable. On a level sort of underneath all of that, I mean, even just scientifically, like there's nothing here but atoms, right? Like everything else is a story. And then beyond that, you know, there are no cells playing out all of these interactions, right? So that's where we're kind of getting under. But you can also take that as a way of spiritually bypassing things. You can lead you into nihilism and just being like, well, screw it, I don't care what happens because none of it's real. Just go off and do what you want to do. And that can be really self-destructive as well. So we have to find this kind of balance between the kind of insight which reduces our suffering and makes our experience of the world much freer and more liberated, and then also still engaging in the world in a meaningful way. That's why in like, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Zen tradition of like the 10 bulls or the 10 ox herding pictures. And the last one is always, you know, after you reach enlightenment, you still come back to the marketplace, you know, and with gift bestowing hands, I think it is. So it's like you still interact back in the world, even after you see that it is not really real.
I had a friend that just lost her husband, and she was saying that that's what it felt like for her. Like she's like, I feel like I'm just playing a character. Like she, you know, now it's like, you know, it rocked her so much that like now when she's in everyday life, it's like she can see kind of through it and like the game that it is kind of whereas I guess before it's such a tragedy, you know, you're just like you are just that character like you're in it, you're just all the way in it, you know.
Yeah, it's all a matter of identification.
What were you thinking, Daryl, when Jay was talking?
That's a lot of ground to cover. And actually, I wasn't doing a whole lot of thinking for most of it. I was actually kind of following along and trying to respond to those questions that Todd was asking her, and trying to look carefully into my own experience. It's one that's really relevant to me because I have a daughter who's 15, and so have some of those same just battles of will, and they create a lot of stress, tension, and unhappiness. And one of the primary reactions, thoughts, is how to bring that stuff to an end. So yeah, there was not a tremendous amount of conscious thought. It was following along and trying to get a clearer insight or understanding of what's actually happening in present moment experience. But it was also very what's the word?
Yeah, I want to jump. I want to jump in here. I have a meme for this,
Right.
and that says it's all story. Just right. It's all story.
That was what was beginning to come clear, was that there are these sensations and mental activity that there's some sort of conditioning around that makes a person take those things to be I, me, or myself. And when looked at more closely, the reality is pretty clear that none of those things are I, me, or mine. They're just sensations, whether it's a physical sensation or mental sensation, activity, thought activity. But kind of going back to something you said a while ago about how some of us are here seeking something that's a better experience, guilty as charged, because it would be a whole lot nicer for everybody if the things that this being does came from that place, rather than somebody who thinks that thoughts and body sensations are actually someone, and then, you know, the reactivity that comes along with that.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, people who were guiding Jay. This was a good example because she was right in the middle of reactivity, like good, like had the whole visceral thing going, and the reaction was going. And so my question is, you can, like you're saying, Todd, you could go from a psychological make the me feel better approach. You could dive into what it was about her childhood that her son is reminding her of, and you know why she's this what kind of mother instead of that kind of mother. Or you could go and try and find the me, first fetter, or you could go to the fourth fetter and go, what is it in the gap between the sensation in the chest that she has, as opposed to who she is, but what she has that makes her want to react to that sensation with that habitual reaction. And then dig for the fear underneath, which is, doesn't matter what the story is around the fear, it's all fear. So my question is, because this is in the middle of, you know, I've been doing a lot of 4 and 5, and I question whether I've fully seen through 1, but 4 and 5 is working really darn well. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, in a way, you almost don't need to fully see through 1 to kind of get in the gap and sit there and go, wait a minute, there's nothing about that sensation in your heart that means that you have to react like that. And so my question is, like you told me, Vince, it's not linear, but in the moment of being grabbed as a coach, let's say, if I were coaching, what is the most effective? Like, do you kind of go for both? Like, it's hard to kind of look into the me. Is there really a me here when you just want to beat your kid up, you know, or you're feeling like a bad mother and you just fucked up and you don't know what to do. So yeah, what's the best way to apply all these fetter tools to this sort of problem is my question. Well, I'm calling it a problem. It actually isn't a problem to this catalyst, which is the best thing that could ever happen to him. Do either you, Vince, or Todd want to, or like what, maybe Jay can answer what worked better to relieve the, kind of get the pressure off the lock you were in, which is, this is my body, this is my reaction, I have to do this. That was the lock you were in.
All I know is that when I do what Pernille says, like don't do anything, it's close to impossible. I cannot not do something. Like I think the other day, like I didn't, I was like, felt it and I didn't say anything to him, but then I walked away and I growled or like I screamed, like I needed to do something. Like I couldn't just sit with it. All I know is that I cannot, it's so hard for me to just notice it and just sit with it. It's like everything in my body says, no, 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 do not sit with this. Do something. Do something. It's almost impossible for me to just sit with the sensation and don't say anything, don't do anything, just sit there and be. It's just so hard, so hard.
Jay, can you tell me the difference between I'm going to say 2 things. I'm going to say, don't do something. And now I'm going to say, no, don't do something. Okay, I'll exaggerate it. I'll say, don't do something. Don't do something. Can you get the difference of what I'm meaning when I do that?
The second one is on taking the action, and it seems more aggressive.
Yes, yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm exaggerating it. So what we're looking at here is the thing, you know, we might describe as doing something. So that is, you are a generative force that is going to produce something. Kind of get the feeling of that? But I'm standing beside you and I'm just going, something. And I'm just relaxed and watching, and this something is just appearing. Now, your something and my something could be quite the same thing, but we've just arrived at it in a totally different way, you know, and you put on your Supergirl outfit and pulled in the energy of the universe and created this something with a nuclear explosion of energy involved in it. And I just stood back and watched it happen. Same something, exactly the same something. So can you see the belief that you've got that says you have to be this nuclear explosion in order to create the happening? You can't, it's not something you can believe, but you can try it out. You can watch and see that, wow, things will happen without you doing them. Now, somehow you're involved, but who knows? Who knows what, you know? Here's another meme. The how and the why of everything is bullshit. Don't even look for it. The only thing that's interesting is the what. As soon as you realize that your mind has taken you off down a rabbit hole of how is this or why is this, you go, I recognize this. This is an endless rabbit hole. There is no answer at the end of this one. So you just give it up. Chunk. What do you reckon, Beth? What would you say to Jay about this? Just what thoughts did you have as it was happening?
Oh, I wasn't sure it was happening. I saw her, I saw her very agitated and affected by it, which is, I was following along with the inquiry, and my thoughts weren't around the parenting. I'm sorry, as such. Although I completely resonated with it, I know that experience very well. I was more sort of going off on my own thoughts about, well, I can see my hand and I can touch the edge of my skin, and if I can see it and I can feel it, then that must mean I am a body, I'm a person. So I was going into that sort of thing. You know, I can do that sort of, well, I can't find a body, but when I've got my eyes closed, but the mind just gets so busy because it comes up with all sorts of reasons. Well, when I open my eyes, I can see the hand, I can get my finger, I can touch the edge of what I think is my skin. That's my body, that is me. That, yeah, so yeah, it's something like Todd says, you can look at on lots of different levels. I just feel such I'm still in kindergarten with all of this because you know, I do believe I'm a body completely. I know it's a belief, but it's a belief that I'm really attached to.
That's good seeing. I like it there.
You sort of, you know, I probably I have a fantasy of wanting to not believe it. Maybe I'm just kidding myself.
They go round and around, eh? Yeah.
Before we go, if we could always go more into that, but before then, Leela, I just wanted to go back to your question because that didn't actually get answered. So I would say unsatisfactors, this might be that it's a case-by-case basis, right? In the moment, depending on the person. Christiana says that you can't do the 4 or 5 inquiry without dropping the first 3. I don't know as I necessarily agree with that. I know Pranilla suggests we can work on all of them at the same time, though I think she even still says that, you know, it's much easier to do 4 and 5 after the first are gone. Because you have, in the first, you have this identification with all of the thinking. And once that's gone, then by the time you get to the 4 and 5, then you're just dealing with the, you know, these kind of reactive patterns without the identification that it's me reacting to it. It's like, it can still feel like that sometimes because they're these old, you know, old habits that this person is, you know, really pushing my button. They're saying this thing against me. But if you really know already that that me is non-existent, that already doesn't have as much ground to stand on. So then it's just, we can look into the sensation itself, and we're somewhat less likely to be completely taken in by it or completely identified with the situation. Like, no, but that person really is wrong. That person really did this thing, and I really have to do that. If you don't have an identification to those thoughts anymore, it's so much easier to get to the root of, oh no, this actual physical sensation in my chest has absolutely nothing to do with me yelling at the person or going to get, you know, something out of the refrigerator or whatever your deflection of choice is. But I still think it is super useful to do this stuff all along the way, especially if you find that it's useful, then it's useful, you know, definitely keep going with it. But if you feel like you're super, super identified with the situation, that is just not even feasible, it might be better off to then come back to who is identified in this situation and see if that can undercut some of it. Does that help?
I realized when she answered my question, she was so identified that there was no way to find the gap there. And I'm noticing that I'm not identified with thought anymore the way I used to be. So that makes the gap easier. And maybe I got that way by doing 4 and 5 first. I don't know. But it's true that when you're really in it and it's you and they're fucking, you know, doing something to you and you have to react, it's very hard to find any gap in that situation.
Yeah.
It's true.
It
Thank
really
you. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just
No, that was a super good question. Yeah. Thanks.
I really appreciate that guiding, because I'm doing along with it. When I really honest with the sensation, first the sensation doesn't speak up. This is I. So that's one thing. Second is the sensation doesn't give information about the story. Just pure sensation. So because when I heard you guys, like, there's no reason to react. I get a little bit, but I wasn't really clear that sensation doesn't tell the story. Because I still was connecting the sensation with the story. But if I'm really, 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 really honest about the sensation, it's just a sensation doesn't tell anything. So this is really nice.
That's so good. That is so good. Yeah, that was such a great insight.
Yeah, I was like, when I have that angry, I would say, "Oh, my mom made me angry." No, the sensation doesn't tell that. The mind believe a story that she shouldn't do something. It just coming back, the feather one. It's the mind identify with the story, then create the I. There's her, and this is really nice. I came to a feather one. I can say I was I might have an expectation, like knowing to say something that I didn't really catch up. You know, even though I felt like I don't trust my mind already, I know that's just tell the story. There's just it's fiction. But be able to join this meeting, it gets more benefit me. It's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
I do feel like, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I do feel like I sometimes feel like I have a longing to skip ahead to the next betters because I'm kind of doing just with Pernell's videos and it's just 1 and 2 right now. But then when I was doing Christiana's workbook, there was just like one of the first 2 questions that it made me have a question for her, and I reached out to her on Facebook, and she was like, she kind of said like, no, we're not there yet, but like it already came for me in 1 or 2, like when she said like it's kind of like what you said, like when you put your hand on the table, can you feel the boundary between and then I guess maybe I asked the question that was what the other girl said, where it's like, well, but when I open my eyes I can see this, and like I can't put my hand through this computer. So it's just like so I asked, so when I asked the question, she kind of was like, no, we're not going there yet. And I'm like, but can we just go there now? Like, I want to know now. So yeah, I could see how, maybe it could be helpful to have a little bit of all of the feathers at some time, at some point. And also you could tell that I'm totally still identified. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Could you please say again the name of the?
Go on.
Sorry. Yeah, the Christiana workbook. Could you please say something more about it? Sounds a bit useful, I would say.
I think it is Christiana's, right? It's her workbook, Todd. It's on her website. I forget. It's like a download on her website, right?
Yeah, I know. So she's
Christiana,
got the
who I'm sorry,
that,
I don't know who you're talking about. Who is it at all?
Here, I'll type it in the chat.
Thank you very much.
Mickelberger. But yeah, so she has the book that Leela was holding. And then
Finding Awakening.
Yeah. Okay, you got it. Good.
Thank you.
And then she also has the little downloadable free workbook that's on her website, which is findingawakening.com. And that works you through I think that one's through the first fetter, right? And so it's got like seeing, hearing, and like exercises for seeing, hearing, touching, I think tasting. I think she might go through all the senses. I can't remember. It's been a while since I saw it. But yeah, I mean, as far as the, pointing to our hand and feeling that, well, okay, if I open my eyes, it's still here and I can't put it through the table and all of that. Again, on the practical level, you still are not going to be able to walk in front of a bus and survive. Like there are things on this level that are physical objects. However, there is also the perception that the way that we experience them is not necessarily the way that they really are. And so you can, oh, thanks, David. That's awesome. He just put it in the chat. You know, even to the extent of where you hold your hand up and say, okay, well, I can feel cloud of sensation. And when I open up my hand, open up my eyes, there's my hand. If you actually do the exercise where you hold up your hand and, you know, take a few minutes to really feel the sensation in your hand as closely and as fine of detail as possible, and then kind of get an idea of where the boundaries of your hand are and where the image of your hand, you know, or where your hand is in space. If you do this for a while and then you open up your eyes, you might be very surprised to actually see the shape of your hand compared to the way that you are internally feeling it. And so there's actually a mismatch between the visual sense and the physical sense. And, you know, we can, it's not even so much about the fact that there is something visible here, though the more we pay attention to it, the more it changes and the less kind of stable and definable of a thing as it is. But it's the identification of, is this hand actually me? And am I actually controlling the hand? And so a lot of investigation can be done just moving the hand and really getting very curious about how it's happening. Are you actually making any of these motions happen? And could you ever describe to somebody exactly how to just move a finger? All right. So it's much more useful to our experience here to just come down to those sensations and experiences in our own, you know, in our own little bubble, and see if there's a mismatch there between what we think is there and what's actually our experience of that thing. And, you know, experiencing the hand without the label hand is a very different thing, right? When we categorize it as this is a hand, that locks it into a specific thing. And then when we say it's my hand, that's even another whole level of locking and identification. And if your hand gets, you know, amputated, is that your hand anymore? You know, where do we start drawing that line? And so we can kind of go through these things bit by bit. If, you know, your hand is a hand, well, if we take a piece of skin off of it, is it still your hand? You know, if we lose one finger, is it still that hand? It's like the whole ship of Theseus kind of a thing where, you know, at what point do we change, you know, every cell in your body is completely being replaced every so many months. So at what point is that still your hand, right? So we can attack it from all different angles, but however we do it, we just want to notice how much of it is just the labeling of the thoughts, how much of it is identification. And when we strip that off, what is really there in your experience? There are sights, there are colors, there are shapes, there are sensations, and the sensations don't even match the colors and the shapes and the visuals. So all of that can start to kind of break down and dissolve in interesting ways.
Just a fun little anecdote about that. When my ex-career was plastic surgery, and you can change somebody's body completely. You can redo their face, change their breasts, change everything. You could do a toe to thumb transfer, and they immediately adopt that as them immediately. Or you, even in VR, if you go into virtual reality and you're in an avatar, it takes about 1 minute for you to assume that that's you in there. If someone scratches your back and they scratch the avatar's back. So you just have to pair one sensation. Or even phantom limb. We were doing that in I was playing around in VR with this whole idea of ownership of the body and who's me. And it's so flexible, you know, like most of us don't feel we're aging. And every morning we look in the mirror and there may be some sign of aging and they're like, oh, who's that? You've got to readjust and recalibrate, you know. Wait, Todd was never bald. I was never bald, you know, or whatever. So,
yeah.
So there's a lot of practical examples all throughout life of how that's just completely made up.
There is a beautiful video on YouTube about this identification with the body when they do an experiment with plastic hand. When they within just a minute they make somebody identify with their plastic hand, and then they
That's the
then another
rubber hand
person comes and
illusion.
stab-
Yeah.
stabs
That's
the hand
great.
with the knife. It's amazing. Yeah, the person
Yeah.
goes crazy.
That's
Yeah.
how fast it is that whatever image she's laying on, whatever post-it we're laying on, that can change you can be a purple unicorn in 2 minutes.
I love that.
In virtual reality, you can. If it's moving kind of the way you expect your limbs to be moving, you think you're a purple unicorn. Like the movie Avatar, he said, I feel more real in this world than in my own, because he could walk. And in the other world, he was paralyzed. Anyway.
Yeah, that's very interesting to remind us. It's like I really want to believe I'm a body, separate thing.
Another kind of really interesting sort of peripheral sidetrack to that, though, which can be really helpful for people, is that, especially people who have like body dysmorphia and issues of, if you were like heavier, when you were younger, and then you've lost a lot of weight and you still feel like I'm still really heavy, I still can't, it's because your internal body image hasn't actually changed. You still have this old outdated image of yourself, just like the image that you still look like you were 20 when you're in your 60s. Like the image doesn't necessarily change, and so we feel that disconnect, or that friction between the two. Bye, it was good seeing you. So yeah, so all good things to investigate.
I remember in one of the DMT trip, and I was looking at my hand. I was like, "Oh my god, so amazing! I don't know who's this." Because there's no connection. It's mine. When I look at it, it was so amazing. Oh my god, it's so funny. Still remember that feeling. Everything was so amazing.
I bet.
It doesn't belong to me. I don't know. I was like, who belongs to?
Amazing.
It's when your hand goes numb when you've slept on your arm. With that arm you don't identify with the arm. Doesn't feel like that's who you are. Yeah. I had a friend who he kept having these experiences where he could see a third arm. It's a neurological thing, I think. That he saw and he felt he had a third limb, an arm. And it happened every few days.
So I have a question about 4 and 5. So I've been working on with my sort of difficult aversive response. And my background is that I did the Byron Katie work for 8 years. And so that will sort of run on almost automatic. It goes very quickly. And I was sitting in the gap, but I could feel that whole aversion thing unwind. And I knew it was a belief. I knew the belief was unwinding. Does that count? I mean, it was like
the situation.
Yeah, beliefs about the situation. And so it was like, I'm not sure that's quite the right way to go about this. I mean, it's good, but anyway.
Oh, this is a good one. Yeah.
Okay, Vince, fess up.
You know, a joke works because you get taken along this road and then all of a sudden you get switched to it, not, you know, off to a different, and that's that kind of disconnection is what's funny in a joke. Yeah, well, I was going along this road with you and then you said, does that count? And all of a sudden I was off on the joke of it. It just was so incongruous. It was so incongruous. I just thought it was hilarious. But of course, you know the answer to that. What a ridiculous question. Part of me thinks I should apologize for seeing that as so funny, but I do. Yeah.
No, thank you for laughing. Thank you for having a good laugh.
Yeah. Well, did you see what I was pointing at though?
I think so, yes.
I will say though, from the practical standpoint of doing Feder inquiry, if it gets rid of the whole issue itself, it doesn't give you anything to work with. So if you really want to dissolve, you're actually right that you're getting rid of you're getting rid of your investigative object. So
Well, right, exactly. And
Yeah.
not only that, but I found another investigative object and they both went like click, click. And it's like, wait a minute. And now what am I going to work on? Yeah.
I mean, it's super useful for getting through your life. If that's something that turns on that quickly and just like, oh, okay, well, that issue's gone. Yay. That's fantastic. But if there's still a belief in aversion or craving, it's unfortunately not going to allow you to work with those things. So yeah, I do. Yeah. I think your instinct was correct on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. But congratulations on having the Byron Katie thing work so well. That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if there's a practice. I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I wonder if there's a practical way of keeping the Byron Katie thing from working. Like, do you notice when it's happening? Like, because you say it like unravels really quickly. What is your actual experience of that unraveling? How is that working?
Well, I usually have to go through a couple of mental turnarounds. Her phrase, yeah, that's the way her thing works. And it, pretty quickly it's like, oh, that's me. It's projection. Ugh, I get it. Ugh, Yeah. So usually I have to do that. So this one felt like it was working in the back room, even without me doing the mental, okay, and if I turned it around, it would blah, blah. It just unraveled somewhere back here.
That's what's so interesting about Byron Katie is she teaches people not to believe their thoughts because no thought is true, but it's on the level of psychology. It's on the level of projection, taking in your projections, that bubble, the bubble of me, but it doesn't see through the root of self in the first place. So it's sort of like a spiritual, it's a spiritual bypassing, very skillful. But when you get to 4-5, there's still something else under her work that you're looking for.
Yeah, no, it took me about a year of working with it before it's like, oh my God, it's all projection, every single thing.
Right.
There's nothing that's not projection.
Then it's very hard if you do that with every thought to get worked up about too many things. There won't be much, right?
Does it come, I'm curious, so if you have an issue like that and it does in the back room kind of take care of itself, can you reinvigorate it at all by putting, bringing up the situation again? Is it lose all of its heat?
It generally loses all of its heat. Now I might have the next iteration might sound very similar. It's just a little, but like about the same person, but a little bit different. So we'll see whether it comes back up again. Yeah, anyway.
You just need more adversity in your life to
Hey,
to be
I am a
able to-
native, this body has native aversion, so I've had plenty of it. And yeah, anyway, yeah, it won't be too hard to find. I'm living with some, actually.
I was also really getting off a moment ago on the absolute wonderfulness of a group like this and the hive wisdom that comes out as people bounce off each other. It's just fucking wonderful. I love it. So many different perspectives on apparently the same thing.
It's a good group.
Mm. It's kind of interesting. There's a somewhat exquisite pain hearing, recognizing the delusion that is keeping people from seeing about, even the Feta one, about seeing the actuality of the self thing. And you can kind of see them like they're the images that they're in a cage and they're kind of clawing their way to, they just want so much to get out of this cage. And and you just want to tell them there's no cage. It's not really exquisite pain, but it's pretty good.
Compassion.
Thank you, Vince, for holding the space for this group wherever every week you can see the cage.
I have a question. Like, I don't have anybody to guide me or teacher or anywhere, like friends, family, nobody really on this path. So I was basically just online to follow Angela Delullo's video all the time. That's how I found this group basically. So what is best for myself to work on, like, because I just feel like I have no directions what to do, or just one time like hear video talk about maybe self, I'll work on myself, talk about, there's no one seeing or no one's sensing, and then I work on that. It just seems so random, just so that's why I'm so excited to have this feather stuff. I feel like there's something for me to have something to work with and see something from all different aspects, and I can really work through everything, and so I don't like all over the places. So right now I just feel like I'm just starting this feather stuff. So I just keep working on them. I know there's no level like 1, 2, 3, like linear that way, but should I just stay with 1, 2 until 3, how that works? Because I feel like it's been keep pointing to the number 8, like there's really not only there's no self, it's really this consciousness is just idea, basically constant. There's not, it's not standing by itself. It's in the senses, it's in the seeing, it's in everything. It's not separate. This consciousness here, and it's made something come out of it. It's all one, just one thing. Well, you can say it's one thing, but so I just feel like, uh, what should I do? Where should I look, or what I should do, self-inquiry, which part I should focus on?
My thoughts were that you could go to Liberation Unleashed and ask for a guide and just go through their focus is the first fetter, but it's good to have clarity on that. So even though you appear to me to have seen a lot of the aspects of the illusion of self, still good to have confirmation and clarity on that. That way there's probably a waiting list, but you'll eventually get a guide who will take you through that process. I can keep coming to these groups. I reckon there's a lot of good value. Everything you'll get at Liberation Unleashed, you've already had tonight. You've just missed it if it hasn't caused a shift for you. But you could just rewatch this and do the whole job from looking at what's happened already tonight.
Okay. Thanks.
And I think I'm hearing you say, Amy, that you are wanting an experience of like one unified consciousness or something like that. Is that
I just feel like I used to think like consciousness, like almost like just like my Christian belief, God made everything. So now I feel like consciousness is everything. But I feel like now I feel like consciousness is not separated. It's not standing by itself. Like it's in just it's just like say if I think something, its consciousness is within that thinking, is the one doing the thinking, is the thought, is the consciousness, it's like everything all mixed in that thought. Like if I see something, the seeing, the seer, and the thing is all the same. One thing. You can't say it's consciousness seeing it or knowing it. It's the whole thing is one. That's how I felt. To me, it's not separate out. Like it's not out of nothing.
I see you looking for a conceptual answer and there's no concept. And it could be that, you know, people need one belief to supplant another as a stepping stone, but ultimately you'll find there are no beliefs, they're all nonsense. And you won't have a need to find any conceptual answer. And that's a matter of a lot of inquiry. And maybe it's useful to struggle with it, but the only thing you can accomplish that way is you can break your beliefs, maybe, when they just won't give you a durable answer, and they won't. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Todd.
That was great.
Todd.
Yeah. Hey, Paul.
Has she broken 6?
It's tough. I mean, it sounds like she might have had glimpses of that sort of thing, but you did say you're still having like identification with.
Yeah, I think my
say?
mind is really trying to grab me tight. I feel like I see a lot of glimpse, but somehow the mind just keep conveniently make me forget about it. Then it's keep, I just going back forth all the time. So I just feel like the mind has a strong pull on me. Let's say it that way.
Specifically, what is it about the mind? Are there certain thoughts that you feel identified with?
That's a good question. I feel like because I've been believing my thoughts all my life, all of a sudden it's now, it's not believable anymore. So it just kept really in all fours, like make me believe something there. I need to know. I need to figure this out. even though I can see there's nothing to figure out, even though when I started this feather, I already feel like there's nowhere to go. There's there's nothing to achieve. This is what it is. I feel that way, but the mind feel like, no, there are something you can achieve. There are something you can get to, especially when you hear people talking about their experience, the mind just constantly to compare. I didn't have this, I don't have that. Maybe I just fooling myself the whole time. So yeah, it's just so weird. Like one time I just feel like, oh, it's just this, it's great. But then it's like, no, it's just, maybe you're just fooling yourself. Maybe the whole thing is just another belief, just like I used to believe God. Now maybe just replacing one belief to another, just maybe different kind of belief. So I just feel like, I know there's nothing to understand, to grab, but I just feel like you can understand it, but if you don't understand it, how do you know it's really the truth? What if it's not? Then what?
Right.
But I feel like I still, like believe creating itself, just kind of going spirals and circles and try to get myself into that, the wheel just keep running. I feel that way. But sometimes I feel like, what if it could be really what you say it could be, it is? Then what? Just a little bit, tiny bit, tiny doubt there for sure. I don't think it's tiny, but something back there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's definitely more than just tiny doubt. I mean, that sounds like a lot of, second fetter doubt issue.
Yeah.
All of the comparing and expectations for what it might be like or should be like. And then also, like I totally second what Jeff was saying, that, can you get rid of any of these conceptual beliefs and be totally okay without those? Because every time you come back to creating a story about, well, now it's consciousness and consciousness is everything. Now I'm not using the word God. Now I'm using consciousness, and I'm not using the word I'm using the word,
Yeah.
I am
Right.
awareness. I am consciousness. It's still
Right.
a reification of those same things with a different label.
Right. Yeah, I see that. I've been identified with that. Everything I kind of have that shift. Then I'm like, it doesn't make sense. So now it's like, I just feel like I kind of hanging somewhere, don't know where to go. But I know you shouldn't, there's nowhere to go. But I still want to be somewhere to feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Just, I want to be somewhere I know where I am, but I know there's nowhere to be.
And the further you go down the rabbit hole of the fetters, the more you realize that there is nothing to grasp. And there is,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think yeah, that's the part I feel like, now what? If I can't hang in there somewhere, I don't know where I'm going.
notice that identification, though, that there is still an I there who is worried about not having something to grasp onto.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for saying that. Sometimes I feel like I just need somebody to tell me that. I just like, why I keep thinking that way, and I see there's nothing here, and I still keep thinking that way. I just feel like maybe I'm just need somebody to knock my head or something.
They're old habits, and it's so easy to have these habitual patterns of thought come back and back and back. And so it's just seeing them each time and realizing that there's selfing involved in these things. And the more we work on the fetters, the more subtle the levels of selfing become, but there's still a sort of selfing that's happening all along there. Whether it's with the
Yeah.
subject object, there's still a bit
Mhm.
of a self there that it's me separate from that lamppost.
Totally, yeah. Because I just feel like when I'm in this meeting, right away I feel so, just feel, oh yeah, everything is great. Whatever you say, you're printing up like it's. I went with your guiding. I went exactly where it's supposed to be. When I listened to Angela's video or anybody's video when talking about this, I was like, wow, it's so clear. But when it's on myself, it's completely just back to where, this person is still here. I just like, why? Almost I feel like I need to listen something or on the background the whole day or something. Otherwise, I just kind of jump back to who I am. It's just so frustrating. I have to say it that way.
But I agree with Vince that LU Liberation Unleashed might be a good thing to go through, because it, if there's like a little excuse me, undercurrent of that self-belief from Fetter One there, it's going to keep pulling you back, no matter, you can stretch out and have these experiences of oneness and all that, but it keeps pulling you back to this identification because there's still some there.
Yes. So yeah, I did sign up, but I don't know how long the waiting list will be. So
There have been a lot of people there lately.
right.
But yeah, there was something else I had wanted to say, and something came up, and then I went in a different direction. And now I can't think of what that thing was, but if it comes back, I'll chime back in. I can't remember what it was. I'm sorry.
Amy, I have a meme that might be useful for you.
Okay.
All thoughts are shit.
I hear you. That's what I feel like. Maybe I should have a new name for myself or some kind of rubber band somewhere. I can remind myself the whole time.
So, yeah, I mean, I think there's always doubt until let me start over. I basically discovered that I had seen through the illusion of self because I wasn't suffering for a couple of months, but if you had asked me, I might say there's still doubt, but that change was undeniable. Then a while later, I had much deeper insight, and that's what I'm trying to express when I say all beliefs are nonsense. And that should have settled it. At that point, it was perfectly clear that nothing would ever be understood, that there was no basis for anything we call reality. It was everything was burned to the ground, and it would never be possible to build anything on it. And yet, for months after that, I was nagged by contradictions in thought, and there was an attempt to understand something which I knew already is impossible. And the way that's played out lately is it just gets tired, like whenever a thought or a belief comes up, I know in advance it's nonsense. It's guaranteed to be nonsense. And so I let it go faster and faster. And even now under stress, certain old patterns pop up, but they don't last very long. So I think it takes years probably to extinguish everything like that. But when the insight is clear enough, then it will happen. It's inevitable. And then just be patient and expect it to be a long process.
Amy. When you were telling your, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
When you were telling your story earlier, something caught my attention. You said at one moment you had read something or seen something, and you said you felt like a backpack had fallen off of you. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Describe that moment again.
Well, I can't say it's a moment because the time I didn't even know what was happening. It's way later, like maybe like a few weeks later, I feel like, oh, I'm so light. I don't worry about certain things anymore, especially the time is COVID lockdown, like, you know, the stock market was just crazy crashing. Normally, I would just, you know, every time stock market makes some move, I move. I just really just tight with that. So that time, you know, I was never worried about, you know, even before this shift, I never worried about stock market, anything, but I just react to what I think the best thing to do. But after that, it was like, I don't even care, even check my balance, how much money is lost or whatever. I just feel so light, and I feel like life is great. Everything's just wonderful. And when I go outside and look, you know, like while walking, because there's nowhere to work out, I just walk outside. Just the nature, everything like so bright, so great. The one little dragonfly, everything. I just it's so perfect. I just feel like life will be just wonderful, just like this, just great. But of course, after a few months, you know, something different, you know, happens stuff. It just, but yeah, it was, it wasn't like most people are talking about in instant something happened, they realize something. It was for me, it's just days, I realized something different because I don't even know what I was touching into. Yes.
When you look at your life, you look back at the history of your life and everything that happened and what you might call the story of your life, do you see that as you, or do you see that as simply a story?
That's the time when I went back through all my life. I feel like it's almost like it is my life, but it's almost like what I was looking at from different angle kind of thing. But then after
You're
the
not really
shift, you know, right, I just feel like, you know, for a while
Do you
feel like
feel
I
after
was,
this? Did you feel like after the shift you're talking about that you were less identified with that story? That it was less you?
yes or no. Because yes part is, yeah, I see is kind of like a story, but no part is because later I think once there's something happening, you know, later in my life, like my mom got really sick and get cancer and dying. So it's pulled me back to, you know, a lot of things back to my life related to her, all that stuff. So how to say it, almost like there's an opening, then there's kind of closing. I can't say it's closing because the time when she was really, really sick, I was trying to help her and I was trying to let her kind of, you know, just tell her what I found out about ourselves is really not just this person, this body, this mind, even though I don't quite understand much myself, but I really just encourage her to really find out before too late. I just might, you know, might kind of really want her to be, before she died, I just feel like she need to know this. That's
So some very strong emotions kind of pulls you back. Let me ask you another question. When you say said something about subject and object not being different. Can you puzzling point that needs clarification? What do you
Yeah,
mean by subject and object don't seem to be
I
different?
don't think I see the, I mean, I see the difference in, right now. But why just like say, if like Todd say, close your eyes, the sound is at no distance. Even I open my eyes, I can say the sound is all over the places. It's not like from there and here is all, it can be the both different, can be from here, but I'm here. Not like I'm here, I listen the sounds from there. The sound is here, is there at the same place, same time. But when I look outside, looking, I see distance for sure. I see the difference, me and so there's subject object. That's not, I don't see the, is disappear for me. No, for sure not. But from sensations, if I close my eyes, I can't, there's nobody to me. There's just, I feel like the body is actually from the sensation, but the sensation is not from the body. That's how I feel. Of course, when you open eyes, it's, oh, that's your arm or whatever. But when I close my eyes, it's pretty clear. And if I lie in the bed, if I don't think about it, I don't know I'm lying down or I'm standing. There's no sensation will not tell me that. It's just sensation. So my problem is I can't, when I see things, this distance is 3D is everything. I don't see people like say, oh, you just know distance. I only have one experience that pretty recently. I don't know why all of a sudden everything just like one, flat. I couldn't even move. I feel like there was nowhere for me to go. But otherwise,
There was
everything
no
is just
distance.
normal. Yeah, so distance to me is
You said there's no
the
distance.
only one time, one like short experience. But for sound and
When there was
sensations,
one short experience when there was no distance, but then
right,
that went away.
went away. Yeah,
Or is it like that now? That, in other words, you have a sense of distance now of 3 dimensions.
yes, that's yes, completely. Yeah, even like sometimes I can relax my eyes. I can see really distance is not quite obvious. Like, but that's only I just feel like it's because I know our eyes don't see distance. Is the brain make that distance happen? I mean, let's just
Yeah.
learn from school, whatever. But my actual experience right now, there's distance for sure. It's 3D. There's no, for sure. So it's not like, but I don't know that's important because people's talking about, see 2 dimensions, whatever. I don't know. I don't think I need, that's the part I feel like I don't like to compare myself to other people's experience, but you can't help not do that because I feel like if this thing didn't happen, maybe I'm not getting anywhere. But at the same time, where you go, you just know where to go. But I still feel like, why don't I have that experience somebody else have? Something must not be right, or I didn't see through things clearly, or understanding is not there, or something is not quite right.
Amy,
Yeah, well, those are a lot of doubts, just a lot of doubts there. And
Right.
I think you're very close to, if you haven't passed through the first fetter, I think you have probably, but you're still having a lot of doubts about the fact, because you sound like you have passed through the first fetter, but I'm not versed in the fetters as much as the other guys in this group. But I mean, what you're talking about, what I was asking you about was advanced fetters, and it's not something you should even be worrying about because
No,
you don't want to compare your experience with others. But let me ask you this, other than the fact that you have these doubts and you keep looking, in a way, you keep looking for something to hang on to, other than those doubts and that desire to find something to hang on to, are you comfortable with what you are
yes,
in this
for sure.
inquiry?
Yes.
Okay. Is there some reason that's not enough? Well, the question is, what is the reason why that is not enough? Just being comfortable with it.
I don't have an answer for that. I feel like maybe just a habit need to, you know, when you do something, is there's always a purpose. When there's no purpose, it's like, now what?
You feel like you're falling?
I don't really feel that way because I hear a lot of people talking about that kind of falling, free fall. I never feel like free fall anything at all. I feel actually pretty good actually. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. Should I feel bad? Sometimes I feel like why people feel so, you
No,
know, like, you know,
no.
disoriented
If you
or
feel
something. And
good,
I'm like,
if you feel good, that's not a bad thing, or at least not in my world. If you feel good, I mean, that's what a lot of people come to this inquiry for, is to, in a way, to feel good. And you may not find answers, but the questions may fall away. So, all right, well, I appreciate you answering my questions very honestly. And if you're not there past the first one, you're you're certainly as close as anybody I've seen.
thank you.
I wanted
Stay
to
with the fetter work. It'll help you a lot.
I wanted to
Thank
point
you.
out
Yeah.
a couple
Go
of
ahead.
pitfalls that I heard. First of all, any kind of experience like 2D versus 3D is it's just transient. I mean, the nature of experience is fluid. Um, and if you ask me in this moment, what does the scene look like? It's nothing like 2D or 3D. It's just exactly how it is. And that's can't be described, but generally speaking, there's a bright spot in the center and everything around it is a blur. And if I move my eyes, the scene is a different scene, but none of it makes a room. There's no room here. That's an obvious mental construct. See what I'm getting at? Like the nature of the experience in the moment is much too specific to be summarized in any way at all. It's just exactly what it is. So and so everything you hear about it is kind of a lie. If someone says the scene is 2D to me, that's just not accurate. And nobody can describe the scene. It's just kind of a pointing. It's not a description. So it doesn't make any sense at all to try to match someone's description, but you can expect things. You can expect with insight for things to shift, but the shift won't match anything you can read about or understand in advance. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I second that. And And also, I mean, oh, bye. Yeah, so there's the issue again of constantly coming back to other people's experiences and denying our own, but everybody has a different body. Everybody is, on that level of speaking, there are different biochemical things that people experience because their own biochemistry is different. And I still don't know how any of this stuff actually works, but there's a good deal of reason to think that there are certain parts of the brain that are, connected to our seeing 3 dimensions versus 2 dimensions and that sort of thing. And when people have strokes and hallucinogenic experiences and stimulation of, certain parts of the brain, you can trigger these 2-dimensional visions and all of this. And it can happen spontaneously for some people. But that's just the change in the brain. And it might not, your brain might not go through that change if that's what's causing it. Or, you have people like Kevin Shanelek who said that, I think his went completely 2-dimensional until he was done with Fetter's 7. I can't remember if it was somewhere between 7 and 8. And then he said like it went to like 2.5D and something kind of changed. But everybody kind of, like Pernilla was talking in our group the other day about saying, you can just go back and forth and flip back and forth as needed. So, I think everybody's experience is different, but I think from my experience, the more important thing is not to focus on the external manifestation of whether it looks 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional. It's the very subtle internal mental overlay that is feeling like there's distance or feeling like there's a subject object. And that is something that feels, it's like a cross between a felt sense and a seen sense, like in the mind, like it's like an internal image sort of thing. And when that drops, then there's just no separation between the two things. Like it's that feeling of being a subject versus objects just drops. But that's this like mental overlay. And I think that's the more important thing to recognize is there, rather than trying to force your vision to change or force your hearing to do something different. It's really about that internal sensation of the perception of a subject that can be seen as, it's like, there's that thing. And then if you like let go for a moment of that thing, it's just,
Yeah, I like what you said, Todd. And we're in this, to paraphrase it, we're in the situation of looking at a Necker cube, and you're actually asking the question, is the front face of the cube up or down? And expecting an actual answer to a ridiculous question.
great. That's great.
It's a Necker cube.
Yeah, I don't know if I can identify a little Amy, because when I went up in isolation, there was a point came where I wanted confirmation that what I was feeling was the right thing, I suppose. What I was going through was the right thing. And I luckily accidentally found Liberation Unleashed just after that. But yeah, so my reading of you is that you're a curious mixture of realizations, and to categorize you in terms of the fetters is just not going to work because you're all over the place. So, yeah, if you want to use fetters, I'd say, well, there's a bit of 1 there and there's a bit of 2 and there's a bit of 6 and 7. And, it's like, wow, who knows, everybody does it in their own way. That's the thing. But boy, yeah, I would agree with Paul. You know, you're well on the way wherever it is. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's just ride the wave. You're doing well. Yeah.
Yeah, Todd, I remember your interview. You said, you know, like if my hair just can turn green or something can give me a confirmation. I think sometimes I need that. I was like, something need to happen. So I know for sure.
Completely.
Todd said, if my hair falls out, I'll know. And it
Found
did.
out. Confirmation. It can be, yeah, it can be that frustrating to, and it's only because we're listening to other people's explanations of an internal sensation or an internal experience, and there's no way to tell if you're experiencing something that somebody else is talking about. You have to find that faith in your own experience, that, and I think that's, like Jeff had said this, like there's just, when that knowing happens, it's so clear that there's, oh, I feel that there's no doubt there. Like it's just seen, like the sun is in the sky. I see the sun. I have no doubt that there's a sun there in the sky. Again, on the practical level, right? On the relative level. But it's that kind of thing where it's just, okay, yes, this is the experience. There is no self in there. There is nothing that has been a permanent stable self, or, you know, there really is no such thing as aversion. Like there just isn't. There's no connection between physical sensations in the body and reactivity. You know, whatever the inquiry is, it's just a very clear, oh, yes. It's just this like internal body yes sensation. Have you done like a lot of like body work of like getting in touch with the sensations in the body to kind of be able to determine?
Not much, because like, as you know, I never meditated before I get into this. And also I feel like if I do meditation a lot of times, my mind just go crazy. So it's kind of hard for me to actually do meditation instead inquiry. I feel like inquiry kind of lead me somewhere, but meditation mostly I feel more like imagination kind of thing. And like, yeah, so sensation, I think I just started to work on that because I feel like I was completely cut off from my sensation. I just, everything is just in the head, always in the mind. So I completely just never even know there's way to work in the body. I just feel like the body just completely follow the mind, whatever mind say, the body follows. But now I tell the difference. I can tell the difference. So that's, you know, like I heard the body yes, body no, but I have no idea how that works. I just starting to feel like I can trust maybe the body sensation in some ways. I remember like after I followed Eckhart Tolle for a while, then I started doing meditation, but then for a while I just have like heart attack kind of feeling or something. I just couldn't be quiet, just a really big fear. I didn't know what happened, so I was completely just stopped because I tried to find online every place. I can't find anything they talk about why you start meditation, be quiet, or it's just I'm going to have a heart attack or something. So I just completely stopped for a while. Then I found Angela's video and he's talking about fear, all that stuff. I was like, oh, that's normal. That's when I started to follow him. But there was for a period of time, I just couldn't even do that. I feel like I'm going to die. How this thing going to kill me? It just, I just really scared of that. Also, I feel loud sensations. Now I can tell sensations, just sensations. There's no story attached to it. But before that, allowed my emotions, growing up with, the way my family was, my dad, everything. There's a lot emotions attached to the body and sensations. So I just have a lot repressed emotions. So I just couldn't feel anything, because if I feel anything, it will be just pain, pain, pain. So I couldn't feel anything. That's how right now I start to be able to open up to all these stuff. I can feel that all the stories lead to the, basically I feel the stories lead to the sensation, but the other way around, the sensation seems lead to a story. But one time I was just sit with that, feel a whole bunch of shame. I would just stay there. I feel so uncomfortable. I just going crazy. I was like, I just feel it. That's how shame feels like. I was like, okay, it's not comfortable, but now I know what shame feels like. It's just some kind of sensation. So after that, I feel more open to feel more stuff. It wasn't like something I feel like my heart was chewing like box, just chewing my heart. I just feel I couldn't take it. But now I feel like a lot of times I think, yeah, I can take it. It's not a big deal. I can feel it. And somehow that kind of emotion, repressed stuff slowly just kind of goes up. I think that really helps a lot.
That's really beautiful. Yeah, that is going to be so helpful for all of this. I think you've absolutely found your way to the right place, and getting in touch with that body yes, body no, that can only happen when you're comfortable being in the body to begin with, without having to run away from the sensations that are in there. So do you feel like now, every time that you tune into the body, do you still feel painful emotions, or is that just a sometimes thing?
It's mostly sometimes thing. I feel like I had a winter online retreat with Angela at the time. Right after that, I have a lot emotions somehow. But that's how I start to feel like, I don't know if some of the emotions is my own or somebody else. It just seems a little strange to me, but I went to feel it. After that, I start to open more and more. Seems nowadays it's not much that kind of thing anymore. But for a while, I just feel my mind was always have a nightmare. Like I, for a year, like I don't know how long, I would never be able to watch any violent movies or any kind of horror movie. I never touched that. Just all the image always go in my mind, like especially at night. It just all come to me, like I was so scared, fear, a lot of that kind of stuff. And then for the point, I'm like, okay, it's just fear, it's just imagination, it's just something from movies, no big deal. I will just face to it and like I just stare to it, see who can, stare longer. So after that, it seems it just went away. I just feel like in my mind, something tried to come back to me, just almost try to like say, I won't let you go. I won't catch. I will just grab you here. You can't just get rid of me or something like that almost. I don't know. It's just strange.
I was wondering, because you mentioned Angelo DeLullo so much, did you read his book?
Yes.
It might be helpful to try to clarify anything that isn't clear to you now. Are there ideas in the book or concepts that made you wonder what he meant?
Yeah, I guess I can read because I went through his book pretty quickly, so I didn't really follow his directions step by step. So I can't really say a lot of things in there what it is. I can just go back to that, see. Maybe you have some part you think I should maybe check.
I don't know, but you can tell me. What confused me for a long time was he talked about getting very close to thoughts, and and I didn't know what he meant, and now I think I have a lot of clarity about that. Do you know what I'm referring to, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think you mean where when the thinking, when the thoughts start to forming, where it's come from. That's what it meant.
Yeah, looking at it very closely, instead of engaging with the content, getting close to the thought. That was it. So what I see him saying is that thoughts are images or sounds or sometimes other sensory modalities. Um, that's really all they are, and
Yes.
what we call the contents of a thought, what the thought refers to, what it means. You cannot find that in experience.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
The only place those ever appear is in other thoughts. So anyway, that hung me up for a long time. I just wanted to make sure that you were clear about that part.
Yeah, but sometimes I just get pulled into it for, like many thoughts later, like, oh crap, why I fall back into that. Just, I wish I could catch it right that second, but maybe eventually I'll be able to.
You get better at that. Yeah, if long as you, when I'm guiding, I give people an exercise and say, when you that recognition, that oh crap moment, when that happens, you celebrate the recognition that you saw it, and you laugh. You celebrate with a laugh that you recognized that it happened, and it doesn't matter when that happens. But if you do that, you'll get faster and faster and faster at seeing it. And then the time will come when you'll see that it was about to happen. And then the time will come when it only happens occasionally. And I'm not past that point. So I don't know about what's next.
Hmm.
The rubber band on your wrist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need that for sure. But then maybe I will forget about that part. Sometimes I'm like,
No,
maybe
you
I
have
should
to
wait.
buy a whole, you have to buy a bag of multicolored rubber bands, and you put a yellow one on, and then when you start ignoring it, you put a red one on, and when you start ignoring it, you put a green one on. That way it stays with you,
Yeah.
and you catch, whenever it catches your attention, you stop and say, look at that thought. Look how ridiculous that is, and have a laugh.
Yeah, great idea. I may have to do that next time. You see me have like rubber band on me.
But you get the message.
Works.
It doesn't go away completely instantly. It's conditioning, isn't it? And then,
Yeah.
but as you get more comfortable with it, you kind of can look at it closer and closer, and you do. It's a constant digging, I think, but yeah, it happens. But it's fun. It's a great journey. We love it when shit happens.
And thoughts are never a problem. It's just believing them that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm going to believe that it's an opportunity. Well, it's the placebo effect. You see, even though I know it's a belief, believing it still makes me feel good.
I guess I get impression like people went through all these and completely liberated people or something, like they just never believe in thoughts or never have any moment of confusion, or I guess I have no idea how, like, they're just like clear all the time, just absolutely clear, and see everything is like one or something. At least people, when they're talking on the video, they always like that. I was like, I may never be like that.
Well, maybe there are people around like that. I just don't know any, or if I do know them, I don't know that I know them in that way, you know. So maybe they exist, maybe they don't. I don't know. I certainly, it's not my experience.
Yeah, well, that's great to know, because I don't know why is my imagination, where I learned from like all the videos, like, oh, this is the path lead you to peace, to happiness, to bliss, whatever. And I'm like, I don't think it's going in that direction at all. You know, like something's wrong. Then I realize it's nothing wrong. It's my expectation. Maybe I heard some kind of, you know, people were trying selling this, you know, say something make you feel like. I didn't think they tried to mislead people, but I have for sure no regret. It's not something you can turn back to for sure. It's, you know, and the time, I think right after I have the ship, I think I really feel I found the truth. I feel I found something is really the real thing. Before, I think I don't know why I believe in God so much. Like I was really, you know, the Bible, I don't know how many times I read Bible, just like 10, 20 times at least. And I recite so much, you know, the verses, all that stuff. But I still don't believe a lot of things is there, like especially the internal punishment. I was like, no matter what, how cruel a person can be, how much they've done, is never going to be deserve an internal punishment. That just can't, I just can't imagine that. But I do believe, you know, God and Jesus, all that stuff. But then I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like if 3 years ago you tell me I'm here, I would say no, no way, not in a million years. But here, you know, I'm like, when the truth speak to yourself, it's, you know, it found you. I feel like now I'm really being found, but I wasn't lost in some ways. I just didn't know. I was actually, I feel really blessed to actually to be here, to be able to speak each one of you, and it's not like accident, it's meant to be. So I'm really grateful for each one of you on today here, and then answer my questions. Believe me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for
Yeah, I'll
being
be here
open
for
to
sure.
exploring these
Yeah.
things.
And it's just, I just keep getting feedback all the time from people that have watched these videos that say, I just got so much from what so-and-so said, you know, and it's like you wouldn't really expect it. Everybody contributes. So stuff that you have said tonight is going to change somebody's life, almost for sure.
And I want to talk about where I am now, because I think you you're always wondering about like what's next, what might happen. So this is the way it looks to me. Experience is inherently neutral, but there are thoughts about it. Those thoughts can be enjoyed without believing them. I might have the thought, the sun in the leaves is glorious, and enjoy it and have good feelings in my body and celebrate that, all the while knowing it's just an interpretation. Does that make sense? I mean, that avoids all the, like that. There was a lady who has a YouTube channel, Suzanne Chang in Seattle, and she does these non-duality videos. And in one of the videos, she was saying, everything is so boring now, and so static and so neutral. And I wish people would know before they started this that this is the result, because I kind of the way it was. And I'm thinking the whole time listening to her say this, she's missing something really important, which is she's creating this interpretation and she's believing it. And that never works. It doesn't matter what level of realization you have. A more useful approach would be, this moment is beautiful, and I feel it, and I celebrate it, and it's just an interpretation. And so what? I enjoy it anyway. And another moment might be, this is very neutral, and that's just a thought. And so what? I don't believe it. It's just an interpretation. And so it goes. Or I'm in acute pain, and my body is jerking, and I hate it. And that's just an interpretation. Actually, inherently, it's still neutral. And it's okay. So that's sort of where I am now.
We need a song about it. It's okay, and it's okay, and it's even okay when it's not okay. It's okay. Or something. So if it's all story, and the stories are not going to stop, and you can see that Jeff's stories have changed from whatever they used to be when he was suffering to whatever they are now, which sounds pretty bloody good, doesn't it? But the stories have changed, and so it's like, yeah, we almost, if we still believe that we had choices in things, it's almost like we can choose to write a new story. But it's kind of not. It is that it's not like that. That's the.
I'm definitely not talking about scripting a new story. I'm talking about letting the story be, and appreciating it and enjoying it, and recognizing that it's just a story. And that's always how it is, regardless of what's actually, what the experience is. Like my story right now, a lot of the time, is my life is better than I ever could have imagined it. And then you say, well, what life? Right. There is no.
No, I say, what does it feel
There is
like?
no me, there is no my life, that's all interpretation, and the appreciation of it is just sensations in the body that don't mean anything. And all that's fine. And at the same time, I'm enjoying the story that's there about it. but it makes a difference in the lives of the people I know too. And I'm not creating suffering for them, and I'm not being unconscious about anything that I can think of. I'm striving not to miss things and to do harm. So.
And Amy, I'd love the idea of paying it forward, and I keep imagining that you will make a really good guide if you go through the process at LU. I would love to see you guiding some people there, paying it forward, because that for me has been one of the best it's helped me see more and more and more and more guiding other people. It's a great way to discover, and I think you would be good at it. Just my opinion. Okay, well, I think we'll wind her up, eh? It's been great. It's been great. Yeah.
Really fun.
Thank
Really fun.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Somebody was breaking up. Judy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.